Hey lovely ladies, I just wanted to pop in quickly with this video about abdominal separation. Now, there's a bit of confusion over abdominal separation. Some people are under the impression that it might be a really bad thing that you get abdominal separation, and then afterwards there's this misconception that you need to close the gap and those tummy muscles need to go back together. So I just wanted to pop in, tell you a little bit about abdominal separation and also show you how to check for it as well. So, abdominal separation. At the end of your pregnancy, your abdominal muscles here, your rectus abdominis, six-pack muscles down the front, are meant to separate. Now, they're held together by what's called the linea alba. That's connective tissue. So it's a piece of tissue and it's meant to be stretchy. So it's meant to happen. By week 40 of pregnancy, you are meant to have your rectus abdominal muscles move around to the side and that connective tissue runs down the middle. So if you're pregnant at the moment and you've got a nice round baby bump, or you can remember from your pregnancy, last time you're pregnant, if you noticed when you sat up out of bed, if you used to sit up like this, which I do not recommend, if you used to sit up, did you remember or do you find that there's a ridge going down the middle? Well, that's your intra-abdominal pressure. So that's the pressure that's created in your abdomen. As you sit up, that's that pressure pushing outwards. Now, sometimes that movement can't be avoided and that's fine, but we don't want to do it on a regular basis. So your abdominal muscles are now here, or your rectus abdominal muscles are now here when you've got a big baby bump instead of here. So of course, that bit of tissue is stretched and any pressure pushing outwards is going to cause that ridge down the middle. Now, it's not going to harm baby and it's not going to cause direct harm to your abdominal wall, but if we want a speedy recovery afterwards and we want to regain that tone and tension in the linea alba and we want to try to close the gap slightly, then obviously we don't want to be doing sit-up exercises all the time because that's not going to help our abdominal muscles. So you might find that your midwives have said, when you get up out of bed, roll to the side and then get up. That's why. So we just want to look after our abdominal muscles while they're under a lot of tension, while that linea alba has stretched, and then we can start to rehab later after you've had your baby. Now, after you've had your baby, some women find that that tone and tension through the linea alba just comes back naturally. Some women might find that they have a very wide and a very deep gap still. You might find that your belly button looks a little bit stranger, or you've kind of got a bit of a pooch, like that mum pooch going on, because the abdominals still haven't got that strength and that linea alba still hasn't got that tone and tension down the middle. Now, you could have been an elite athlete before, you could have been fit, healthy and strong and still have abdominal separation after you've had your baby. Research suggests that it's down to age. The older we get, the harder it is to naturally get that tone and tension back through connective tissue, and also genetics. So if you find that your mum had problems with abdominal separation and regaining that tone and tension down the middle again, or if you find that you had a lot of stretch marks, suggests that your tissue is just very stretchy, that could be a reason as to why that's happening as well. So what I want to do is, one, tell you that all is not lost. Even if you had your baby years ago, you can still create more strength through your abdominal wall and create more tone and tension through your linea alba. I want to tell you too that you don't have to close the gap. It's very rare that your abdominal wall, the rectus abdominis down the middle, will go back to exactly how it was before you had a baby. Sometimes you might find that there's still always a gap down the middle, but what's more important is the depth. So you can still have maybe like a 2-finger width gap going down the middle, but what's more important is the depth. So what we want to do is create tone and tension in that connective tissue down the middle, because that is what's going to control our intra-abdominal pressure when we do sit-ups, when we do squats, when we jump, when we run. So that's what's more important, not closing the gap completely. It's about strengthening that abdominal wall and connective tissue. So I'm going to show you now how to check for abdominal separation. This is by no means a replacement for seeing women's health physio. So in the write-up on the Facebook group, I'll share some women's health physio details with you. But just so you might want to check at home, if you've had a baby, even if it was years and years ago, you can still check. So you need to lie down. Let's make this a little bit lower so you can see. There we go. So you want to lie down on your back with your feet hip width apart. So feet should be in line with your hips and your knees should be in line with your hips too. Don't let your knees roll out and don't let them roll in. Just take a few breaths, and I want you to place your fingers on your tummy and just make sure your tummy muscles are switched off. You want them nice and soft. So breathing in. And have a feel going down the middle line just as you're breathing. Don't do anything else. Don't lift your head up. Just have a feel. So can you feel any gap while you're at rest? That's just worth noting now. Starting from your belly button. So fingers over your belly button. I want you to breathe in. As you exhale, we're going to lift up the head. Exhale and see what you can feel. Work your way up. When it's time to breathe in, head down, breathe in, have another feel as you breathe out. Can you feel a gap? Now, it gets a bit more complicated than this because what we want to do is start to engage the transverse abdominis, which is the deeper abdominals. So it's great to be able to find out, do you have a gap as you lift your head? That's awesome. I do. I can feel, I don't think you can see from here, but I can feel, oh, maybe you can. So my gap is actually quite deep when I just lift my head. So what we want to do now is engage the pelvic floor. So we're going to do a pelvic floor lift, and we're going to try to engage our deep abdominals as well. So by doing that, we're going to have a nice soft tummy here. As we breathe out, I want you to imagine that you're wearing a tampon and you're trying to squeeze that tampon with your vagina and lift and then release when it's time to release. Now it's 3%. Think of how light a tampon is. It's light. It's not a 10-kilo dumbbell. We're not trying to tense everything. It's a subtle little lift. So we're going to do that as we breathe out through the mouth. And as we breathe out through the mouth, we're going to use the mouth because we're going to get our diaphragm working. So that's how we're going to activate our transverse abdominis. Okay, we're ready. So fingertips over the belly button. You're going to start working your way up. We'll work back down and check below the belly button too. So breathe in. As you breathe out, lift the head and engage your pelvic floor and deep abdominals. Now, if I check now, there is no gap now. So now I'm engaging my pelvic floor and my deep abdominals, and that gap has closed. If I don't engage my deep abdominals, see, I don't know how well you can see from here, but that is a deep gap. Narrow, but deep. I engage my pelvic floor, my deep abdominals, that gap has now disappeared. So it's really important, let's try and lift this up again. It's really important to make sure you check for abdominal separation when you're lifting your pelvic floor and when you're engaging your deep abdominals as well. This is not a replacement for a women's health physio appointment. They will be able to help you much more than I can help you, but it's just a really good indication of kind of what's going on with your abdominal wall and what you might need help with. Maybe you've been exercising for a while now and you never realized that you had any abdominal separation. Maybe you thought you did and you've just checked and actually you don't. That could be the case as well. So, that was a lot of information, hey? I hope some of it was helpful. If you've got any questions, pop them in the comments, or you could get in touch privately. You can send me a message, or you can email me, louise@strongmoms.com. Yeah, so hopefully some of that was helpful. Any questions, let me know, and I will see you soon. Goodbye, lovely ladies. Bye.